Mansi, welcome to Media and Me. First of all, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, I'm super excited you're here. It's so nice to have these kind of rare sunny days in Manchester. I feel like ever since I moved here, it's just been raining constantly.
I know. Because I come here regularly for work, I think I probably complain the most in the office about the weather.
Yes.
And they're just like, come on, give it a chance. I'm like, it rains all the time.
I know. So do you do the majority of your work in London, or are you flitting between Manchester and London quite a lot?
So my base is actually Leicester. So I'm staying with my family. I feel like I've done the whole uni 4 years. I lived away, and I was like, do you know, I want a year at home to just resettle, find a bit of balance again. I feel like when you're living away for so long, you just kind of go crazy and chaotic. I was like, I just need some peace.
Yeah, you really are like kind of deprived of that at uni, aren't you? Especially when you go so far away. Like we'll dive into, you moved to London. I also moved to London in my first year of uni, and like it's a rarity to like go home. Where is home for you? Is it Leicester?
Yeah, Leicester. So I was constantly on the go, and I thought after I graduated, I was like, I'm going to come home anyway.
Mhm.
And then it just worked out that with work, I could use that as my base and then just travel everywhere, which a lot of my family think is actually crazy because I'm either on a train or I'm driving somewhere. But because I do a bit of hybrid work as well, I love working from home. It's just a good balance. I think it really works for me.
Yeah, that's so great. So before we dive into this incredibly exciting career that you have built for yourself that I'm just in absolute awe of, tell the viewers a little bit about you and what you do day to day.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Mansi. I am a freelance. Yeah, I guess I'm freelance. Freelance producer and researcher. And I mostly work for the BBC and Audio Always. So I started that position last August, which is crazy. It's been a year. It was my 1 year anniversary the other week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't know. I just float around a lot. So I work between two teams, and the way it all works, so I applied through the BBC. It was a radio production development scheme, and I was contracted by the BBC for 4 months, so from August until December, 5 months. But what happened is I do a month of training, so they'd train me up all how they do radio, their systems. Obviously, you learn all about the BBC's values and their cause. And then I got placed with an independent production company that makes content for the BBC. So that's how my relationship with Audio Always started. And originally I was put into their youth team. So youth for them is Radio 1, Asian Network, and then they have, I think they do a bit of One Extra, and they have their own podcasts that sit under that. So when I first started, I was actually working across Asian Network. They had a podcast businessy show called The Everyday Hustle, and every week we'd research guests and then kind of do this. They'd come into the studio and we'd record with them, and then it would be post-production, editing, socials. And then during my scheme, I started doing a little bit for Radio 1. So Audio Always produce Radio 1 Life Hacks, which then was presented by Katie Thistleton and Vic Copen.
Like,
Then
absolute
I
icons.
know. And now it's Lauren Layfield and Shaniqua Paris. But I started doing a few stints on some Sundays, kind of getting to know how they produce that kind of show, because on Radio 1 that is the only like speech heavy show, and I'd guess it's more on like the journalistic newsy side, just a bit more of a relaxed casual tone than you would get I guess on like Newsbeat. And I absolutely loved it, and I just started doing more shifts here and there. It was a bit more like shadowing or helping with content at the time, and then just loads of random things. Radio 1 Christmas, so they opened like a pitching round, and I was like, okay, let's pitch like a Christmas lunch show, and it got commissioned. So we got to do that with Ricky, Melvin and Charlie, which was really cool. And we had like chaos from loads of Radio 1 presenters popping in and out. And then did a little documentary with Sigrid, which was like insane.
That is so cool.
I was helping on like more the research side. So she is a massive fan of Neil Young, and I was helping gather loads of stories from his career and connect them to what she loves about him. But I got to go along to the recording days, so it was very surreal to experience that, and how it was a 2-part program is kind of just done in 2 days, and like you're doing all the interviews, like she's singing on the piano, we're getting social content, and I'm like, wow, it's just crazy how much you can do in that amount of time. But my scheme ended in December, and then I took a few weeks off, and they asked me to come back, audio always, but it was to their factual team. And it was something that I spoke about with them during my scheme. That I said, like when I did my master's, a big focus of it was investigative journalism, and I would love to do it, but obviously I was kind of in that BBC contract, so I couldn't at the time. But I joined, and I've been with them ever since, and it's been kind of very strange. I feel like time has gone so fast. I don't know where it goes. It's just been loads of projects to work on. So I did a bit of different with Nikki Campbell, which I feel like going from like the Radio 1 world to that was just, I was like, okay, switch the brain, change the mode of how everything works. But the guests we bring on, and it was just fascinating. I'm like hearing these people's stories and what they've been through, and the way that Nikki interviews people is, and you're just constantly learning along the way. And then it's just been a lot of like Radio 4 documentaries, researching this new 10-part series for Radio 4, The Human Subject. So that's been a really, I feel like a big step for me, because I got to bring in lots of skills from university. It was a lot of archival research, and I think we're halfway through the season now. So that was just like, wow, we're doing research on these stories from like medical history, where all these human subjects are involved, and what it means ethically, and diving into what it means now. And I was like, we'd go through pages and pages of research, and then you get cutting it down to that 28 minutes, and then you listen to the final product. I'm like, wow, okay, maybe we do know what to do. We can do our jobs. And I think what I love the most to where I am now is that I just feel like I'm still learning every single day. And I think that's also why I chose this degree and being in the media field. It is just a career where I don't think you'll ever stop learning.
Yeah, I always describe it as like that as well. Like, I love school and learning, so this job for me is like the most perfect thing ever, because you're just like a sponge 24/7, aren't you? Like,
and it's homework. I love doing homework.
And you never stop doing homework.
Sometimes maybe you don't switch off as much as you should, but I think it's just like you're setting yourself deadlines and tasks, and you're meeting like bigger external ones. So I just, people think it's weird, but I love it. I agree. It's just the best thing. Take it all in, be a sponge. But I think, I don't know, it's just been like a roller coaster. And then I got asked to come back to Radio 1, Life Hacks, from March. So since then, I've been on the show every single week, and I split my time. So I love it, because I'm like, I get to be on the youth team and be like myself as a young person.
Have a brat summer.
Have a brat summer, and like bring in that Gen Z insight. And because I'm just looking at what is on my timeline, how can we reflect that in our shows?
That's your superpower, isn't it?
It is a superpower, and I love that it is, people are more open to it now, especially, and you can see it like with Life Hacks as well. We did that. Have you seen that deeper level trend? Like, if you ask me on a deeper level.
Oh yeah, no, I have seen that.
I'd
Yeah,
say,
on
like,
TikTok.
Greg's is the best, if you ask me. And I was like, it's amazing. It changes my life. Like, I was like, guys, let's just bring this to the show.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the response you get, but it's just they're happy because we are responding to what they are seeing on the daily. So I absolutely love that aspect, and like you feel like you're actually listened to and heard in the space, because they're listening to my ideas, and then we're reflecting it, and the audience feel like we're listening to them. So it's just like a beautiful full circle moment. So I split my time between them, and then I get to still do factual stuff on the side.
That's
and
so cool.
that's kind of more developing now to the documentaries, more podcast stuff. So it's a really nice balance. I feel very, very lucky and privileged to be in that position where I can use my two skill sets that are like my strongest ones.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing to know, actually, for any young people wanting to get into journalism watching this. We often take for granted like how much we scroll on TikTok and find trends, and they're just in the back of our like subconscious. But that is, like I said before, it's like a really big thing that you can bring to a table at the BBC or somewhere else at a radio station. Your ideas, those are original, and people who are maybe slightly older, who work in those like newsrooms or radio stations, they won't have that kind of knowledge that you do. So those subconscious things that you might not think are like, I don't know, powerful, they are, and you can like really use them to your advantage.
Definitely. And I think the landscape of the industry is constantly changing. I think that's something that I actually felt when I was doing my undergrad in London, because it was during COVID. And I always say, like, one of the main reasons I did a master's was because it wasn't that I wasn't fulfilled with my degrees. I just think I didn't get enough, like, actually getting out there doing interviews. So much of it was on Zoom. But then I'm also grateful for that situation of touch wood, nothing like that ever happens again. But I can adapt and I know how to do things on Zoom.
That's a great skill to have as a journalist as well.
And then it was crazy. I think I used to complain so much. I was like, I don't understand. Like, why are we doing a radio bulletin on Zoom? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. But you actually never know when you're going to be in that position. And I think just having that on the backbone. I'm like, do you know what? Sometimes you work on a podcast, I can't just fly out to America.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't fly to, like, Mexico.
Sometimes the budget just isn't there.
The budget isn't there. So Zoom is always just so handy, and I am grateful. But yeah, it was just, I think I realized at that time that this industry is just changing so much, and that is when TikTok was really, really growing. And I don't know, I'm always like, oh, maybe I should have jumped on TikTok in 2020 when everyone else was. Because it is hard now. It's so difficult, I think, to grow an organic audience if you have like a full-time job, or like if you're in uni and you have other responsibilities, because I give my hats off to influencers and anyone that is a creator, because they are spending so much time. And I would love to, like, I always say this, I'm like, oh, I should film all day in the lives, like what I'm getting up to. You don't know who it could help, but it just takes so much time.
You're so right. Like, trying to do that alongside a degree or a full-time job, like, people really don't understand how much goes, because I started my journalism TikTok. I was like, right, if I'm going to make this work, I'm going to post a video every single day. And that probably lasted for about a week. And then I was like, if you're filming something like this, and I was like, right, I'll do a behind the scenes, you've got so much to think about, especially in our kind of jobs. Sometimes that just gets on the back foot, and like, really hats off to people who do that. So let's take it back to before you started studying journalism completely and you decided to make that big move to London. You studied at City University. I studied my first year at King's College before I dropped out and went to News Associates to do journalism. What made you want to make that big move to London? Because for me, it was really daunting. I was from a really small village in North Wales, and I just kind of wanted some freedom and a bit of like, wow, let's go live in a big city. And what made you want to study journalism, more importantly?
I actually always have my heart set on London.
Regardless
of what I wanted to do, I was like, I want to go to a big, big city, and that is the one I want to be in. Because I'm from Leicester, and like, Leicester is quite big, but it doesn't have that buzz. I mean, it's big, but I don't know. I might get hate. I love Leicester. It's great.
Why do we do that? I hate on my hometown all the time.
We always hate on our hometown. So, I mean, now, like, at 23, I love it because, I mean, you've got comfort around you, and it's nice to go to the local. But 16, 17-year-old me, I was like, I need to get out. I need to see more of the world. And, gosh, getting into journalism. So throughout school, I loved everything. Like we talked about, we love learning, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. And it was really scary. I think I knew I was like, I like science, but I was good at it, but not good enough to be like, I'm going to go be a medic.
And also you've got to do what you love. Even if you're good at something. Like I was good at geography, it doesn't mean I want to be a geography teacher.
Exactly. And actually for such a long time, I wanted to do fashion.
I can see.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. I did it for GCSEs textiles, and I absolutely loved it. But my school didn't have it as an option as A levels, and I wasn't going to move school. So I feel like that just kind of closed it off for me.
That was the end of that fashion dream.
That was it. I couldn't do it. So what I did. So when do you have to write your UCAS? It's year 12, right?
Yeah.
So I think that summer before, and then the summer before year 13, I thought, okay, I really do like writing. I really enjoyed English. Was I amazing at it at the time? I don't think so, but I think I used to just overcomplicate it because you had to just analyse so much stuff. And some topics and books we had to do, I was just like, this is not for me.
Yeah,
you know? This
exactly
is just a bit,
same as me.
Bit dark and deep, but I still loved it.
Yeah.
And like the poetry aspect as well. I think that was my favourite part. But I spent some time during the summer trying to get some work experience, which at the time was so difficult. I didn't really know where to start, but a friend's mum had a friend Always go.
It's always how it goes.
And she had like a tiny little fashion magazine. She lives in London, and like it all comes out of her house. And she was like, you can come spend like 3 days for me. And like I just did a little blog post for Facebook. But I got to just learn from her, know what she gets to do. I think she does like a monthly release. So I wasn't really writing for the actual physical magazine, but I was writing.
Yeah.
And
that's all you wanted to do.
That is all I wanted to do. And I kind of just wanted to be in her environment. And it was amazing. I think, fine, 3 days is all it was. But I just learned an incredible amount. And just having someone give you that time.
It means the world.
It means the world. And you just need someone to take a chance on you. I think that's what I always
Really
say to people going into the industry. Yeah, your skills and everything is so important, but just it is networking.
Absolutely.
And I still get so nervous doing it all the time.
Talk to me about it.
It's so daunting because you're usually speaking to people that have been doing this for like 20 plus years. But if you can find that one person, and I don't know, sometimes you maybe just connect. Like I feel like I really connected with her, and she was just kind of able to help me, and then we kept in touch. But I did that as one part, but I actually went on a journalism course at Central St Martin's, which...
That's where Amelia de Moldenberg did her degree, didn't she?
It was 5 days. A journalist taught the class, and like he was like, this is how you do news writing, this is how you do like feature writing, opinion. And it was, again, like going to school, but I thought, okay, if I can get someone to teach me the basics, do I actually like it? He would do like a little test with us, we'd write something at the end. Do I feel like I could be confident doing this as a career? And I think after that moment, it really solidified it for me that this is something that I really want to do. And then, oh gosh, we went up and down the country to look at unis. Me and my dad.
Oh, I love that.
We went to City, top choice.
Did you not find it was really difficult to find like an accredited journalism course in the UK?
Really difficult. I looked at the ranking.
Yeah.
And I think it was, at the time, it was City, Leeds, Sheffield, Cardiff.
A lot of the red bricks don't do journalism, because when I went to King's, I thought, oh, I'll just because I was doing philosophy for a year and I always wanted to do journalism. I was like, oh, I'll just transfer to do journalism at King's so I don't really have to move. They didn't do journalism at King's, and that's so common.
I remember I went to look at one of their courses and it was like digital something.
Yeah, they do a lot of media courses.
A lot of media courses. And I did put it in my top 5, but now I know why I put it there, because I was like, it's a good name.
Yeah, it just looks good.
And probably make my parents proud to go to King's.
That's literally the same.
But it was the practical aspect that was missing. And I think even going through like my GCSEs and A-levels, I think none of my A-levels were even practical, but I think that textiles aspect and doing more coursework is something that I enjoyed. I didn't really like exams. So I'm so glad now I didn't go there, because yeah, fine, it would have been a lot of essays, but I just think if I had to do exams a lot during my degree, I just wouldn't have flourished. It would have been too much pressure. And when I went to City, I think because I saw the radio studios, saw the TV studios, they kind of broke down. First year was a lot more academic, because they teach you like history and like the political side, but it got more and more practical as you went through. And then there was the option like to do a year abroad. I didn't do it through them, but because of COVID, but that was there. I also did really like Leeds and Sheffield, and I think they were both top choices as well. I really enjoyed going to Leeds. I was like, is it too far from home? But Sheffield as well, their cohort was smaller than City, and I was like, do I want to be in such a small department, which has its pros because you get more attention.
Absolutely.
But then I was like, do I want to meet more people? So I did go round and round, and I think if you're going to like Sheffield or Leeds, you're going to have more of that local aspect, where it's London. We were obviously reporting on London most of the time, and it's thinking outside of the box to what is in the news.
Being in that London bubble and making friends in London is tough. Like, isn't it like there's a saying like you can be in the biggest and most bustling city in the world but still feel like the loneliest you've ever felt?
Yes, and the thing is, Leicester is so close. It's only an hour on the train, so I used to go home quite a lot.
That's nice.
Which was really nice, but I think friends and like a lot of international students as well at City, they're like, why are you always going home? I'm like, I just need to. I need a little break. But
So
it
nice
is
that you could do
true.
that.
It is hard to make friends in London. And I think, so my first year happened, March was when COVID hit. So we all just went home. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do second year? Where am I going to live?
And there's already so many uncertainties. So to throw that in the mix as well, that must have been super difficult.
It was so crazy. I mean, I was very thankful because they actually kind of let us all pass through.
That's good.
So our exams that summer got cancelled, and I was
Brilliant.
like, great, because I did not want to do that history and politics exam, but I
Yeah.
understand we need the backbone.
It was like me with my public affairs module.
But it was in a media law at that time.
Oh my God.
Did have to do it in third year, the media law exam.
Yeah.
But my brain was a lot sharper in third year.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fine. But I remember that summer, I thought, oh my goodness, I have nothing to do from around April.
Yeah.
And then we went back, end of September? So that's when I started writing more for, at the time, like Carrot magazine.
Yeah. Editor-in-chief.
Yeah, I got moved up in third year. But I just started, I used to do like music reviews to music that probably wasn't really like my go-to. I'm quite a pop girly.
Yeah, me too.
But it was just nice to listen to like people that are putting stuff out there for the first time and like giving it a review, and it's
That's a good skill to
something
have
for
as well. Like working with stuff that you don't necessarily love. We always get taught at News Associates that you have to get comfortable with like putting forward opposing viewpoints. Like you're not going to agree with everything you write, and I kind of really struggled with that at the beginning. Is that something you've kind of
100%
touched on?
I experienced that a lot. More when I went to Hello, and I absolutely loved it, but celebrity stuff wasn't something that I was like, oh, am I going to be good at this? Because you have to write in a very particular way. And I was like, do I want to be writing certain things about celebrities? And the thing is, we can get more into that after, I can say it now. But when I was there, I kind of went in like, this is what I like to write about, and I really enjoyed doing features. And like before that, I like worked at like a vegan magazine. I was like, I'd love to bring that in. And I think when you're going on like schemes or doing these kind of jobs or like internships, being honest with like the editors about what you want to do, because I'm like, if you don't want to write, if they give you an assignment and your heart's not in it, it will really show as well.
Yeah, it's not going to come across as your best work.
I think I was just always very honest with them about what I wanted to do, and I did do a lot of the celebrity stuff because I did like a internship with them that was after my second year, during the summer, and then I went back for a bit during my third year, and we were actually building up the celebrity side for the US.
Okay.
So we were helping boost up those numbers, and it was fine. But I think because at that stage I was pitching the stories I wanted to do, the power was kind of like in my hands.
Yeah.
And things obviously get thrown at you and you do it. That is what happens in this industry. But yeah, I think you do just sometimes just have to adapt and kind of get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes.
Which is something that I think at Carrot really did help me. And then when I went into my second year, I didn't write as much and did more social side. And then in third year, I just took the magazine under my wing. And
it was like your little baby.
It was.
Did you really
baby.
struggle with like getting too emotionally attached to it? Because when I worked on my documentary last year, it became less of a piece of journalism and more of a like, I'm an activist at this point. Like this is a passion project, and I sometimes really struggle if I work on a feature for a long time. I struggle giving that editorial control away at the end of it.
100%. And I'm still not great at it. And I think with Carrot, I would compare it to other student publications across the UK. And I think at first I used to get quite disheartened because I was like, this magazine doesn't have as much as a backing probably. And I think the journalism department also know this. It didn't have that. It wasn't something that they would push their students to do. So it felt like its own entity, which made absolutely zero sense to me. I would go to professors and say, I don't understand why the funding doesn't come from the department. Why does it come from the union, students' union? It made absolutely no sense to me.
That's crazy.
And I was just like, why aren't the students part of the magazine coming from your cohort? They're coming from like English or like politics, which is fine. I was like, more the merrier. But I just think, why is it not a push for them? because I know it can help people down the line, like it's great on your CV. So I think that is a battle that I had that whole year. So when I took it under my wing, I did a complete rebrand. I have an amazing friend who like redesigned the logo for me.
That's amazing. Student media is so important. Like, I just want to put this out there. If you're in university, you're doing a degree, maybe you're doing history or politics, but you know you kind of want to go into journalism, get all over student media. That's how I got my freelance work at Lab Bible. They literally popped in the editor an email saying, does anybody kind of want to train up to do some freelance shifts? And nobody wanted to do it. And I was like,
crazy.
I'll do it. And 2 years later, I'm freelancing there. Well, I've been freelancing for 2 years, and I've worked there over summer for 3 months, and I absolutely love it. But like, I would never have got that if I hadn't have done student media. So if you take away anything from this, if you're watching, get all over student media.
And it's clips at the end of the day. You want to have like bylines. And I think like student media is just as important as if you got something from like the BBC, because it shows your passion, and you probably spend more time. You have that time during uni to get those stories and speak to people.
And the great thing is not many people are reading it or listening to it, so you can make as many mistakes as you want.
And you learn so much, and I think the team that we built was just incredible. Like I have so much love and admiration for them, because they all took their sections under their wing as their own babies, and we really did push. And like one of my friends, Claudia, she did all the PR and got more opportunities for people to go to concerts and stuff. Like we had a writer who was constantly going, and I was like, this is so good for her, because that is something that I know that she still does now. She still loves writing music reviews. So it was great. It's nice to see where people develop. Like one of the opinions editors, she's now at like Warner Brothers, and like she used to do so many reviews for films.
That's
and
I
was
mean,
like,
you never know where it's going to take you. It gives you such a good footing.
And letting it go was so hard.
Oh, I bet. I can't imagine.
I was like, what do I do? And the editor-in-chief that took on after me, so we both started at City at the same time, but she did a year abroad. So I was like, I know it's going into great hands. But during that year, I even heard like they were having funding issues. So I think just in general, I think across the UK, student media probably needs that more of a push.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to people. Like we got some awards during our time with Carrot, and I was like, this is so great, because it's putting us on the map. Because I think before, people didn't know that we even had a magazine, and I'm hoping now this year it continues to grow. Someone did ask for access. I think I must still own like a folder or something. I saw a random person.
Still logged into the TikTok.
You can have it. Gosh, our TikTok never grew, but I mean, we hit like 1,000 followers on Instagram, and I was like, do you know what, that is
amazing.
Great.
You know what? I
People
think it's a
know
lot
us.
harder to grow on Instagram than it is on TikTok.
Exactly. So yeah, student media, just go for it. Like on the first day you get to uni, sign up and just get stuck in, because it's the best.
Yeah. Flitting back to, we talked a little bit about networking before, and it's a really big part of being and working in the media. I wondered, well, you've obviously had a lot of pinch me moments throughout your career so far. What are your like networking top tips? Because you mentioned that you get a bit anxious. I think that's completely normal. Like I get, and also it's really difficult to, I'm a people pleaser. So I always want to come across as like authentically myself. But usually with networking, you are trying to kind of get something out of the other person, or vice versa. They're trying to get something out of you. So it's really hard to come across as like, I'm just a normal person who wants a chat and maybe like wants your email as well. How do you go about that?
Yeah, it is a really tricky one. I think, so at uni they used to do a lot of events, and I used to go along, and you speak to the editors, you speak to people, but I think when it comes to networking, you want to choose the people that have either had an impact on you, you really admire their work, and you know a lot about their work. And I think that's the approach that I kind of take now. So being in like the BBC bubble, I guess I have more of an access to people that I admire. And I did just pop like one of my favourite journalists an email, and I just said, like, I really love your work. I'm quite new to this field and like being in this space. Would love to like catch up for coffee or like do a little Zoom. And like, I just gave points like, I love this documentary you made, like how did you get into this, how did you do that? And like, she responded, we had a little Zoom chat for an hour. She still regularly checks in. I think if you show someone that you care about what they do and like the difference they make, they'll be more willing to help you. And I think also they've been through what you're kind of experiencing now, and you do have like imposter syndrome, and I don't know, I always feel a bit nervous, and I still do, like a year in, even when I meet new people that we're working on projects with, I'm like, I'm just a kid, like I'm a baby.
You don't feel like a 23-year-old working with Katie
Exactly.
Thistleton at Radio 1. Going on to that, you do work with some big presenters. You work with the likes of Katie Thistleton, Lauren Layfield, who I love, Shaniqua Paris. Do you ever feel kind of imposter syndrome, like you said, and like, oh my God, is this really my work? Is this my career? Like,
I remember the first time I met Katie, I was like fangirling so much. But you realise at the end of it, they're just normal people as well.
People doing their job.
They're people doing their job. We go in, we have a little gossip, we talk about Taylor Swift.
I love that.
We'll talk about our favourite songs in the charts. And it's like, they're just the kindest, sweetest people. And I also just like love, especially for Katie, I've watched her career from like child presenting for her to now doing the drive time show on Radio 1.
That is incredible.
And when that moment happened, I was like, oh my gosh, obviously I'm so sad because she was leaving Life Hacks.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see people that have been in your position and are like reaching their goals.
And it makes it seem much more achievable as well.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you before, the BBC and like your job now feels so unattainable to a lot of people. But when you're there and you do just think these are normal people and they've just worked really hard and not taken no for an answer. That's how they've gotten to where they are.
Exactly. And I was even talking to Lauren about this the other day. She says that she's done the jobs that you probably don't want to do. But it's all a learning curve, and I know that they've both kind of been on more of that production side as well before they got into presenting. And I think they just kind of took every single opportunity and gave their all to everything. And it's nice that we have those kind of conversations. They see me coming in as a newbie, and it's not, oh, it's so scary, it's all this. It's, we grafted, we work really hard, and you'll make it. And they're still making it, and there's still like other limits that they want to reach. So it's amazing to work. It is like daunting working with talent. You're like, oh my gosh, you guys have been here for so long. But they're also just such pros. And I think even if I go in and say, okay guys, this is what the show's theme is for this week, this is what we're going to be doing.
Does it ever feel surreal, like telling them what their show's going to be about?
It is a bit funny. And I think, especially because like we'll help with like scripting and stuff, they'll know when I've thrown something in. Yeah. I'll just put a Gen Z lingo and they'll be like, what is this? And I'm like, it's for the kids. Don't worry. It's all
They'll
good.
Get it.
But they're just such professionals that they're used to people telling them what to do. I don't think to them it's weird that it is like a 23-year-old and like we have that millennial Gen Z gap. I think they can learn a lot from me and I can learn a lot from them.
And it's so nice that you know that in yourself, that you bring something to the table, because it can be really hard in those big environments to think, God, I always think, I worked on a couple of Stacey Dooley's documentaries last year. Something I wanted to ask you about. I constantly feel like I've fluked all of my opportunities. Like, oh, I'm not here because I've like worked really hard and I didn't take no for an answer. I just happen to be here. But knowing your worth and knowing what you bring to the table is so important.
Oh, but I felt that when I got this job.
It's like, how did I end up here?
I was like, what am I doing here?
At the BBC.
Am I meant to be here? I remember going to that interview and I was like, guys. And she called my mum after. I was like, Mum, I don't know.
What was that interview process like? Was it kind of grueling?
It was quite long. So I didn't actually see, because I'm subscribed to like the BBC have that thing on their careers page,
yeah.
And then they email you when like the list gets updated. But I didn't see it on there. I saw it on Instagram.
Amazing.
And I didn't have that long until the deadline. So I like got everything ready. The CV was kind of ready 'cause during last summer I was just applying to jobs. I adapted it, got the cover letter in. I can't remember what else they asked for. I don't know if they asked for some audio. I'm assuming
sometimes they ask for like a video as well, don't they?
Yeah, I think it wasn't too bad, but they have like that whole form system. So like you're writing all these paragraphs.
And it's always the balance between, am I waffling too much? Yeah. Do they want me to be concise? And I think it's like, instead of just thinking, what do they want me to be? Just be yourself. And I know it's so cliche and everyone's like, just be yourself. And it's like, I am. And nothing's working.
It's so hard. And I just think, I was like the whole time, will they like me? Is this what they're looking for?
Is this what they want me to say?
Exactly. But I just kind of took all the buzzwords out of the application, popped them in, And then, I got an email saying the interview date is then. I remember I was really ill the day I got that email as well. And it was in like a week's time. I was like, Mum, I've got the flu.
Awful timing.
I've got a week to prepare. And I went in, and the way they did it was, first we had a group activity. So other applicants were also there. And because I went in through, like, it was mainly for the Asian network, so we had to plan an event and we'd have to present it to the whole team, and it was so scary. I was petrified.
It's one of those things where you get like 15 minutes to do it.
Yeah, we literally did have 15 minutes, and then you have to think, okay, I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to speak, and you've got to put yourself out there. Whatever comes out of your mouth has to be amazing. And literally. I remember I wore like a silk shirt, and I was like, why did I wear silk? I think, and it was just not good. I was just standing like,
that's so relatable.
I was like, no.
Everyone has been there. If it might not have been the BBC, but everyone's been in one of those interview situations where they're like questioning every life decision they've ever made.
Honestly, but so I think that was a scary part, because after that, I got interviewed by the woman Jay, who I absolutely love, who was like the manager of the schemes, and then another member who was one of the like 3 independent companies that they could have placed you with. So I actually didn't have Audio Always in my interview for that one. It was someone else, and that was absolutely fine. It just felt like a chat, kind of like this, just talking about like things on my CV, ideas I put in the application. And after that, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better. And then my dad picked me up and we went for lunch, and he was like, do you think you got it? I was like, I don't know. I really
so
don't.
Sweet.
Because
so you didn't have the gut feeling then?
I didn't have the gut feeling. I feel like I did the best I could, and I enjoyed my morning, but I was That's like, good. I was also surrounded by so many other incredible people who had such great ideas, and like, you know, when they say something, I'm like, oh, I wish I thought of that. So I really didn't know. And then a week after, I had another call. So we weren't done yet, and it was on Zoom, and we met the 3 production companies. And I met Dave Masterman, who is the head of content at Audio Always, and we really clicked. And it was really funny because it was like they put you in a breakout room,
right?
And we had that whole 10-minute thing, but we were still waffling away, and it just like kicked you out.
He was like, she's the one.
Mid-sentence kicked out, and I was like, no. But after that call, I was like, well, I really hope I get it, because I want to be with them.
Yeah.
And then I had one phone call and got the jobs.
Amazing. What did you do on that day when you found out?
Gosh, I don't even know. I think I put it in like the family group chat. I was like, guys, I started a job in a week.
That's mental.
I was like, I need to go shopping.
I need all my work outfits.
And then I started straight away, and I wasn't expecting to start work so soon. And like, I do post it on my socials, but my brother passed away last January. Yeah. And because I did go back to New York after he passed away, and I was kind of doing this whole like back and forth thing, and finished my masters, and I came home, and I was like, I don't know if I want to work so soon. And then it came to the whole, I think in this industry, what are you meant to do when like your personal life is kind of falling apart? And I still kind of think about it, because it is one, and I think everyone I speak to, whether or not like life is fine, it's like, if you take a break, what does that mean? If they see a gap on your CV, is it a bad thing?
Is that going to be detrimental?
Because I always think, are you constantly meant to be doing something? And
it almost feels like that.
It does feel like that, because the news cycle's like that.
Even at 3 a.m.
Even at 3 a.m, things are constantly changing. TikTok, the way we consume news.
24.
Podcasts, like the Traitors podcast was on TV. Like, it was podcasts on TV. I was like, that is constantly there is something new every month. And I thought to myself, because so many people said to me, Mansi, don't do anything. You've done 3 years in London. You did a year in New York. Don't get a job. Take a year out. Go traveling. But I thought that could really affect my career. But your career, I know at the end of the day, your career shouldn't be everything. Like, your happiness.
No, but do you not think people in our industry kind of are like that?
Yeah.
Like, I did a podcast last year, and it was like, tell me a bit about yourself. And I went straight for the career stuff. And it's like, it's almost like us journalists and producers and people who work in the media, we attach our self-worth to our career. It's everything. It's literally all I talk. I'm sure my family and my boyfriend is sick to death of hearing about my job, but it is just it's like who we are. I feel like you don't go into this career if you want a 9 to 5.
It becomes your personality trait. And I think that's why when I saw the application, I was like, yeah, okay, I would love this, But I kind of did it and I was like, okay, out of sight, out of mind, because if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And I got quite a few rejections over the summer, but I also think I wasn't in the right headspace to even be applying for jobs. And that's why I actually think it was just pure luck like, that this all happened.
It wasn't though.
Because I don't know, it just, everything kind of started to feel more into place once I started work. And I feel I did have a wobble like last October. My mental health went really, really bad, but I don't think it was because of my work. I think it was me just coming to terms with what was going on in my life, and work became an escapism. And I still think it is now. I think.
And when your job's so fun as well, I'm not saying it won't be stressful, because I'm sure you have times where you're just like, oh my God, give me a day off. But when like your work is so fun and it's what you love doing, I'm sure that is a big escapism.
It is fulfilling. And I think I wake up every day and I'm like, I'm so grateful to be doing this, and I'm so thankful for all of the like random little things that I did during like my undergrad, and like this just craziness that I used to do in New York to like.
Yeah, I really want to touch on this.
here.
We've not even touched on you in America. So once you'd done your undergrad, you went over to Columbia School of Journalism to do a master's. Number one, what made you want to go over to America? And number two, I'm so curious how you funded it, because in my head, I feel like a lot of people watching this be like, of course I want to go to America and do a master's. But then it's like, how do you even go about that?
Yes, well, obviously, so the whole COVID thing, like I had an amazing time at City, and third year especially was basically back to normal, going in like 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. But there was just, I think I was just itching for more. I just wanted to learn more. And I actually met a girl from City who went to Columbia, and they were doing like a master's chat, and then we really clicked, and I was like, okay, maybe I want to just go to America. And I never did a year abroad during my undergrad, so I was like, maybe this is my chance. And if I'm going to do it, I want to do it straight off the back of the undergrad, because if I leave it, I just feel like I'd never do it. And I looked into it, and they have, for international students, a lot of scholarships.
Okay.
So I applied to so many of them, but through the school.
Oh, amazing.
So the school will fund a lot of
That's so good.
like the fees and help with accommodation. So I was like, okay, on the whim, great story, small girl from Leicester, please take me. And gosh, there was a lot to do. You have to like a personal essay, academic essay.
I bet.
So many essays.
It makes the BBC application process look this big.
It was crazy, but my undergrad head of year, like she helped edit everything, get it in, and then we just, again, I must do this with everything. I'm like, don't think about it. And you'd get regular emails, and then it was like March, I don't know when it was, like March 13th. I was at my friend's house. We were having dinner, and she'd cooked a little Mexican. We just sat there. Some of her other friends were there that I didn't really know. And I was like, guys, I've got the email saying, like, check the status. And she was like, are you sure you want to do it, like, in front of all these people? And I was like, well, whatever happens, happens. Whatever. And I logged in, and then it popped up. And I was like, oh, my God, I got in. And
amazing.
She was like, there was confetti on the screen, apparently. But I just didn't see it. And I told my family, and I was like, guys, I really want to do this. Like, you have time, you have a few months to decide. And I was like, I think this will be so good for me. And I've always kind of been in like a bubble. And I thought, this is my time to kind of just get out there, grow, be really independent, and move across the world. And I was so scared. I'm such a family person. And I'm really lucky, like so many of my cousins, like all my friends, they all live so close by. But I think I just had to take that step and just challenge myself.
And journalism in America is so different.
It's so
like when
different.
You think about, especially we touched on media law before, like the amount of different laws we have over here in comparison to what they have over there in terms of contempt and privacy. Yeah. Was it kind of tough knowing that you were going to pursue your career in the UK, but having learnt kind of, I know you'd done a 3-year undergrad in the UK, but the most refreshing thing in your mind was your US masters. Yeah. Was it kind of tough learning their way and then trying to implement that back into a job over here?
Yeah, it was at times. We did law again there. And it was quite funny because the professors that taught it also knew so much about UK law. Yeah. And they were actually flying to London during our class for a case. So
oh, really?
It was just like...
God, that must be so confusing for them.
They really switched their brains. But I remember learning it and I was like, but no, in the UK they do this. But because they would put everything into examples, it was okay. But no, I don't know. I don't think it actually affected me too much because for them, those were kind of, okay, it's important that you do media law and we do ethics. But I think more of what I took away from Columbia was reporting. In America, they love you're on the ground. Like, you are going on location.
I saw that all over your Instagram.
Yeah, you are going, like, I'd go to the Bronx. We'd be there.
Is that kind of terrifying, though? It's like a young girl in America by yourself, not have a clue where you are. Is that, I would be terrified.
The first time I went, because we all got, like, a little neighborhood in the Bronx, and everyone else was just taking, like, one subway, and I was like, guys, I got to get, like, a bus, a subway, another bus. I'm just going
character
all
building.
The way up. And it was character building, but then I loved it. I spent so much time there. And I did a whole semester of like 8 or 9 stories there. And I took them from my reporting class to like my audio class, because I was like, this is what we should be reporting on. It's really underrepresented. And I loved it in the end. And I think those are more of the aspects I took. And more so like investigative journalism. I took an investigative techniques class. And just the way, I don't know, their brains are wired, the way they delve into things like going into the archives, how to even like get access to documents from the government and stuff like that. I think I got more into it there, and I was actively doing it.
Yeah, it gives you the confidence to do it as well.
And it was great to bring here. And I actually think whilst I was doing, especially my first time, I wasn't sure job-wise, would I come back to the UK or would I stay out there? So it wasn't really actively on my mind. But I think what I took from Columbia was just, you have to really be deep into your stories, and kind of the fact checking as well, something that we get taught, but I don't think I was doing it to like the correct level. And even
especially working at the BBC, you've got to be on it with fact checking.
Really on it. And it's like some things that I've been doing recently is checking if people were mentioning, like, are they still alive? Like, where do they live? Are we giving them an opportunity to speak? And that a lot of that came from what I did in America, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I think it made me a better journalist. And I just liked specialising more. I think I didn't get an opportunity to do that at City because of COVID, whereas there I did more audio. I always thought as soon as I graduate and my first job is going to be in print, I'm going to be, or in digital, I'm going to be a writer. I thought that was my calling, but because I took a podcasting class, I was like, actually, do you know what? I know how to work with audio, and I really enjoy it.
You're a broadcast girly at heart.
I also thought TV, but maybe one day.
I was going to ask about your big dreams for the future.
I don't know.
Could you see yourself in front of the camera a little bit more than behind it?
My family want me in front of it.
Do they?
They were like,
we want you on News at 10.
Exactly, News at 10. My dad's like, I know, I want you on sport. And I was like,
have you ever been interested in sport? Because I really haven't.
I would love to. Like a colleague at Asia Network, Amber Sandu, she does so much Sky Sports news and she's so good at it, but I just don't think I know enough.
Me neither. And it's also that kind of like toxicity in sport where it's like, if you don't know which team won the Premier League every year since 19 whatever, you don't deserve to be here.
Exactly. I think it's probably one of the most competitive fields, but I also think it's probably one of the most diverse.
That's true.
Like when I have the TV on, it's amazing to see like so many females, so many people of colour, and I think maybe one day, I think if I'd ever do it, maybe like tennis. I don't know anything about tennis, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but it's just so like,
I think that would be such a fun one. Like, imagine doing Wimbledon.
Rocking up to Wimbledon.
Or even like
and
Olympics,
then you could bring in your fashion side as well.
The fashion side.
The Wimbledon fashion.
But I don't know, I think once I left Columbia, I got such a big grounding and the foundation that I needed and the push that I needed. I think it really gave me confidence of like, I am meant to be doing what I'm doing. Which is very good because you get worried, especially in your 20s, like, have I even chosen the right career?
Yeah. I mean, there's endless things. Do I move to Australia? Do I stay here? Do I do a grad scheme? Do I become a career woman? Do I just want to stay at home?
I still think about it all the time. I'm like, Australia, that sounds nice. Never been on that side of the pond.
Well, Mansi, thank you so much for being the first guest on Media and Me. Where can people go if they want to follow your journey?
My journey, I think my Instagram is the best place to follow me. It's at Mansi the Journo, and gosh, it's been through many handles, but that is the one we've stuck with.
Love it. So this conversation has been such a privilege, and I think there'll be a lot that people can take from this if they're wanting to get into a similar position to you. And hopefully the BBC and working there won't sound as unattainable now after listening and watching to this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.